Texas is one of the many states that chooses to teach abstinence-only sex education classes, which promote waiting until marriage. They purposefully leave out topics over safe sex and sexually transmitted diseases, assuming that these students are too young or too immature to know the truth about their bodies and how they relate to sex. Is this truly beneficial to our children, or are we screwing them out of valuable knowledge that could potentially protect their health and well being? Schools choose to ignore the fact that most teens are sexually active and know the most basic knowledge of how it works, regardless of if they are taught abstinence. If students are already rebelling against what they're taught, why do we not provide them with the truth? Why do we not be honest with them, answer questions of theirs, and teach them that if they do have sex, how to do it safely? While many people are in favor of these abstinence only programs, whether it be religious values or other reasons, it's unfair to students for school systems to fail them by limiting knowledge for sex education classes. First, we need to better define sex in order to teach proper protection. Because of the lack of comprehensive sex education classes, as Firestock claims, virginity and sex is a varied idea and everyone has their own definition. McGrath expands on this, saying abstinence only graduates may be engaging in behaviors that they may not consider sex, but still expose them to STDs. By not engaging in vaginal intercourse, but instead experiencing anal intercourse and oral sex, many adolescents and adults believe they are practicing abstinence. Although they may not be exposing themselves to causing or enduring an unwanted pregnancy, some of these activities that they may not even consider to be sex still expose them to a high risk for transmission of STDs. Although some programs do provide definitions, the many abstinence only programs as administered do not agree on how to define sex or abstinence. Based on these findings, the first step to providing the truth with comprehensive sex education is to define what sex actually is and both positive and negative consequences of everything revolving around it. Next, let's talk about how the Establishment Clause plays into the debate. State legislature is formed around the beliefs of all the people in the state itself, which in Texas is mostly comprised of conservative Christians. Because of this, many would be outraged if public schools were teaching their students taboo contents that they believe shouldn't be spoken out loud, let alone outside of marriage. That being said, because of the Establishment Clause of the Constitution, public education systems funded by the government are not supposed to teach with any sort of religious background. They are supposed to be impartial and subjective to any and all religious views. The idea of abstinence until marriage is a moral generally associated with religions such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and many more. If this is taught in our public schools, does it not violate the Establishment Clause? I believe it does. Sexual stereotyping through the limitation of information. Limiting information helps generate sexual orientation and gender-based sexual behavioral stereotypes that cause harm to individuals in early life and continue into adulthood. Sex is such a taboo subject that many people find appalling to talk about openly. But when we act as though it is a horrible and wrong thing to participate in and pass that on to our children and students, we just foster an environment of ignorance instead of awareness. For gender stereotyping, it is thought of to be more okay for men to have more sexual relations than for women to have some, if any. As Spyerstock states, another issue regarding sexism in sex education is the false information provided for many young girls, such as the vicious, long-believed myth that virginity is precious. Everyone has heard of the analogy, you want a key that can open any lock, but who wants a lock that opens for any key? She believes that this is slut-shaming and that it is very present in the abstinence-only sex education, almost as if it's used as a scare tactic, playing into ancient and sexist ideas of virginity as if it is a commodity. For sexual orientation-based stereotypes, because the state limits education on sexual orientation, it can lead to homophobia. Most people fear what they don't know, and they fear change. Not formally educating them on something they will most definitely come across in the real world not only fosters an environment of ignorance, but also breeds homophobic remarks and beliefs that can damage the mental health of others. McGrath claims that these programs fail to address gay and lesbian adolescents marginalize them, and attempt to coerce them into sexless lives. And because of this, a substantial number of our nation's youth are being completely ignored, as the programs make no allowance that many of this nation's adolescents are lesbian or gay. By withholding valuable information on sexual orientation, contraception, and sexually transmitted diseases, we are failing our students and the generations below them. We must give them the truth to protect them. Being more knowledgeable makes it easier for us to make informed decisions. After all, we do want our kids to be better off than ourselves, right? We don't want them to make the same mistakes that we have, that our parents have, that our grandparents have. The first step is to stop spreading ignorance by sparing the gory details and simply tell them the truth on how to protect themselves by making more informed decisions. Most of us didn't listen to our parents about waiting to have sex before marriage. Why do we think our kids are going to be any different? Do them a favor and give them the tools that they not only need, but deserve to live a healthier life than we did.